Good morning, distinguished guests, esteemed panelists, and ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of ICRIER, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you to the Dissemination Event on the roadmap for EV battery circularity in India. We are truly honored to have such a distinguished group of experts, policymakers, and industry leaders with us as we engage in a dialogue to address the challenges and opportunities in the circularity of electric vehicle batteries. To formally open a program, I now invite Dr. Amrita Goldar, Senior Fellow and Thematic Lead at ICRIER, to deliver the welcome remarks.
Very good morning to everybody. I like the fact that this is a spring event, so I don't have to start anything by apologizing for dragging people because of hot, cold, or rainy weather. But it's a nice morning, and I hope you will find this entire discussion that we have from here on very engaging and enriching. For my welcome remarks, I thought I'd talk about a couple of points. Bear with me, I'm new at this business of giving welcome remarks, but I'll get better with practice. As many of you know, ICRIER was set up in 1981, and from there on, we have gone from strength to strength towards becoming one of the premier think tanks in the country and also globally. We started our mission with the logo of linking India to the world, but that obviously has evolved. So, from a rich history spanning multiple decades, on a comparative scale, our team, which is called Climate Change, Urbanization, and Sustainability, is a pretty new one. We started in 2021, if I'm not wrong, and we are then, on a comparative scale, the proverbial babe in the woods. When we started our work and our journey, I recall that one thing that was of prime concern was that we were a very small team. And we were very conscious of the fact that we have to place our bets very carefully and strategically. I am very glad to say and pleased to inform that circular economy and critical minerals was one topic that we decided very early on, something that we wanted to do. Because this was a topic that had policymakers' interest. This was a topic in which a lot of experimentation with respect to research methods could be done. And thirdly, we felt that there was a dearth of research that was happening. So you had a lot of work happening on the technology side or on some bit on the sociology, anthropology side, but nobody was taking a very sort of 360-degree view, combining multiple disciplines together, etc. So that is what we as a team thought about doing. So we have, for people who are following our journey, gone from strength to strength. In fact, we started our work with battery materials only, but from there on, we sort of expanded into municipal solid waste, from there to e-waste. Now we are working extensively on critical minerals and critical mineral recovery, and the future is open. So there are additional, I would say, gamut of things that are pretty high on the agenda. For example, circular economy modeling that we are doing parallelly. So please sort of watch this space for the new sort of things that we will come up with. I don't want to steal Anjali's thunder or any of the team members' thunder, but just wanted to point out something. So imagine me not as a thematic lead, but as a hype woman for the work that will come your way today. So we have traditionally always experimented with cutting edge multidisciplinary research techniques. In fact, today in the presentation, I'm hoping Anjali will showcase a lot of it. So we have tried to blend together aspects of technology, of policy, with a spattering of, I would say, geoinformatics, a dash of economics thrown in for good measure. So it is all in all, I would say, a very interesting project that Anjali and the team has sort of done, combining very interesting themes together. The last point that I sort of want to close this discussion is with this issue of criticality of research. So notice the pun, but then again, if we want to arrive at or get to this object of urja atmanirbharta, there could be multiple trajectories that we could think of. It need not be that all is produced in India, but we need supply chains that are reliable, that we can control, and that we can sort of forecast that will be at our disposal. So, in that sort of context, I would sort of submit to the hall here is that circular economy is one of the low hanging fruits that we have at our disposal. So, there are obviously environmental arguments that could be made with respect to waste management and that being detrimental to the environmental health of the entire society, etc. But nowadays, with the scarcity of critical minerals as well as their skyrocketing prices, increasingly an economic argument can also be made towards critical minerals. So, I am anticipating that even in the next 5 years, ICRIER would continue to work on this issue, explore new and interesting research techniques and ideas, and we are just sort of getting started on this. So that's all I wanted to say. Wishing you a very productive and enriching discussion going ahead.
Thank you, ma'am, for your warm welcome. We are privileged to have with us Shri Sudhendu Sinha, advisor NITI Aayog, to deliver the keynote address. Sudhendu sir's leadership and expertise in the e-mobility sector are invaluable, and we are honored to hear him out today. Please join me in welcoming Sudhendu Sinha.
This is area longest kind of employment opportunities in pharmacy. And what you are attempting at is precisely you both. But also probably something with respect to the digital opportunities. So you have to be very cautious about slowly. So we didn't work out.
बहुत कम आ रही है, कम आ रही है, तो कह रहे नाउ येट बट वेरी बैडली। वो हमें चेंज नहीं उसमें नहीं आ रहा है अभी, लैपटॉप का दे रखा है, नहीं आ रहा है।
The good part is that the industry is now almost there. They have got a clarity that this is a good business opportunity. They should be taken. They are very to invest in setting out the facilities of designing. The another better part is that now they are made to initiate specific steps from the production process itself so that it facilitates circularity. Henceforth, it was that okay, let consumer or the user how it is to be brought back. Change now they are building up systems. For example, identification of what we call the battery passport. Change your own. Number has been identified. Integrity is broken, of course. So this is the good thing. But probably I would say that they are the most, pressing challenges with respect to the awareness. A small thing, probably, it is very difficult. How to make people aware? That is a kind of challenge that is to be taken forward. We have been able to bring it into the battery waste management rules. We have ensured that there is a specific dedication to the lithium ion battery and the disposal systems. All those things are there. But still, because whatever value is there, quite at times the value is so negligible that to encourage a user, a consumer, a possessor of a lithium-ion battery that it's time you dispose it off in a kind of responsible manner, it becomes a big challenge. It's not so easy task. I'm sure that in all of our households, I am sure that multiple batteries must be lying in the cupboards and in the drawers, and we hardly bother because probably even if we always think whether the effort to dispose it off in a responsible manner is worth the value that you would be getting. You will be getting nothing precisely. So, how to go about it? How to ensure, as it is done in many of the Western countries, and I've seen, for example, I can give example of Germany instantly. So, how exactly let people understand that if you are disposing of a battery or you are putting it into a circular channel, then in a way you are contributing to the nation. That is what is to be, it has to be understood like. Once we are able to kind of instill this sort of vibes among the communities, probably our task will become easier, but that's a big challenge. In addition to that, of course, the technology part of it. Once the circular the product, the waste comes to the facility of recycling, do we have standardized processes whereby, let's say, lithium-ion battery is there, whereby can we say that okay, 90% of it can be reclaimed, and not only that they can be reclaimed, they are of the suitable standards. They are of the battery standards. Or maybe suppose if it has got alternate uses in, say, pharmaceutical, it is of that standards. So you have to ensure that, it is the purity, the element of purity is there. So processes have also to be standardized. Not that any process you just bring in the country and take it forward. I'm happy that in private sector it is being taken forward, and more number of responsible OEMs are also, they are evincing their interest in setting up of these recycling facilities. And I'm sure I'm always been, I'm in conversation with them. I've been always been telling them that it's time for you to become all the more aggressive on this front, and they are taking action. Multiple applications they have filed, and we are attempting to take it forward. For example, let me give another example. Of course, it is obliquely related to lithium-ion battery, and that is with respect to the vehicle scrapping. You can imagine what a massive, what challenges are there with respect to the vehicle scrapping. And that's why when we initiated, we said that first it should be the government vehicles, and in government also first it should be the defense people vehicles. And if you see the scorecard, then almost the 80% of the vehicles that has been scrapped through the RVSFs, they have a registered vehicle scrapping facilities spread all over the country. They are primarily the defense vehicles. So this is how we are going ahead with. So I'm sure that the kind of report, the kind of knowledge product that you have created, this will go a long way. This will also be a kind of lighthouse for us to, and it will help us create a roadmap, specific action points, small, it may even, it could be a baby step also to take this thing forward. So again, congratulations, and I really appreciate, I think, for the initiative of ICRIER. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are honored to welcome Professor Siddharth Saxena, Principal Research Associate at the University of Cambridge, joining us online. Professor Saxena will deliver an expert address on the global perspectives of EV battery recycling and recovery of critical minerals. Please join me in welcoming Professor Saxena.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Just let me know if I can be heard clearly. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for inviting me to speak about this topic. It's literally a topic that's keeping us and me awake at night. It's 4:30 a.m. here in Cambridge, in UK. And unfortunately, we don't have such a nice spring morning here. It's cold. However, it is a topic of great relevance and importance, and I'm very delighted to be able to share this a few minutes with you. And I'd like to also acknowledge what has already been said, Anjali's great effort in putting this whole thing together and ICRIER's support for it. And I would say that in the lighter set of things, as Amrita already put out, that let's not call ICRIER a think tank. It's a think fountain. This is a very archaic word. It's not trapped in boundaries. It's spitting out wonderful ideas, and we are here to share them. Um, and uh, uh, and I would say a personal thing that Anjali drew me into this project. I'm an experimental physicist with an interest in critical minerals and a number of technologies, and I've, despite being an Indian, a proud Indian, but I've never had a chance to work on a project like that in India and for the benefit of India. And I'm really, really delighted that this chance has been given to me. And I will take a few minutes to share a slightly broader set of things, which in many ways have already been discussed already in the short few minutes we have started. So I'll share a couple of slides and just through those share some ideas. And I want to particularly um, point out hold on, let me get the slides going. Yes, so I hope they can be seen. Uh, so I want to bring this specific intersection that ICRIER brings to us about the science and policy. And I'm sharing with you here a slide which is quite powerful in the modern context. That here is a picture from 1900, somewhere near New York, United States, and no lesser personality than Thomas Edison himself is promoting electrical vehicles in 1900. And then there were more electrical vehicles in that era than there were the petrol-driven vehicles. And so we can see technology is there, we can see even industrial production is there, but what we all know, we can all agree that after that disappeared. And then a different technology, different set of things brought us to where we are, to the crisis of environmental issues, to energy, to a variety of different things. And here is where us scientists and us industrialists, us technology people need sound policy and policy recognition, or rather lack thereof, is what led to removal of this amazing technology from us. And just imagine the time in this time period what we could have achieved. So I'm taking a broader view to start the story. So I would like to point out something which is obvious often to the scientists, but not discussed very much outside of our circles. And it's pointing to obvious, but nevertheless needs to be said, that how science, which is like culture and music, is engaging with principles of nature. It's our daily business to understand something. And engineering comes with application of sciences, or which means, in other words, systemizing these principles into scalable production and methodologies. And then comes technology and innovation, making something useful, which is either for public good or commercial gain. And I believe this is where we are today. I call it algebra of development. And this simple scheme is very important when we consider this is, in a way, from a thought process, a circular economy of thought, how we think, how we implement what we do. And similarly, being a quantum materials, quantum experimental physicist, I would say that is quite important. While we're considering circularity, considering critical minerals, we have to ask the important question about critical minerals: critical for who and critical for what? And the fact that how much of what we assume in an analysis, and which we have tried to get away from in the work that we have done here in this report, is to uh, to think through the notion that the new science and thus the new technology can change the idea of how we think about what is critical. Because most, if not all, of the critical minerals literature around the world assumes the static technology, in a sense that what we produce today will be continued to produce in the way it is produced, and thus would make things critical uh, as a result. But I would like today to get away from that way of thinking and see what else can be done and what are the ways we can approach this issue. So basically, what I'm saying, I said earlier, fundamental science, observable phenomena, and deployment of science through innovation is what we need to reach the net zero future. So here comes a set of things. How do we think about that, and how we think about circularity, and how we think about value, and how we think about value chain and supply chains? And here are some comparison, and we're not in here in a detailed discussion today, but just want you to think about how the materials are energy, and energy is money, and but how we ascribe value comes in a different way. So you can think about the in terms of an iPad, that what is the cost, what is its weight, and what we buy it for. And similarly, you can look at the windmill, for instance, right? And the lithium-ion battery and the battery pack. How much does it cost, and where do we come? How do we achieve these numbers? So this is just again an example of, if you look at the mining minerals annual. This is of course slightly older set of figures, but you can see a linear progression of how these things are. And if you were to put this in the battery terms, where we're talking about thinking of suppose a 50 EV sold annually at 200 kg battery pack, and this is what uh, currently speaking, where the minerals are needed. However, we already know the lithium, in a sense, is kind of a thing of the past. And cobalt, which is talked a lot about, is something that we don't really think will be a thing going forward. And it's manganese and nickel where things going to lie, most potentially because that's where the science projection is. So technology foresight needs to be linked to what is critical today in a global journalistic speak may not be critical tomorrow, and most likely it won't be. And it is also important here to think clearly about a country like India, and but also other countries where the industrial production of high tech things were not, in a sense, being the leading issue. These are things where the catch up game is being played. So important is to leapfrog rather than play catch up in when we come to critical minerals. At the same time, you have to have a baseline where our circular economy argument comes in. So this is just an example from the US. We have to look at the full picture of where the trajectory of electrochemical energy storage is and how the conversion will work across the sectors, whether it's EV, whether it's the personal electronics. This is an example from the US. Of course, it needs to be modified for India, but nevertheless, these are important interconnections we have to see, and interconnections are extremely important part of the how we think about the circularity of what and circularity across sectors and circularity within the sectors. So just to conclude, that we would like to say, and as it was just being said earlier a minute ago by Mr. Sinha, that while Western technology giants have identified potential and taken early risk in establishing bases of such technologies, they do not have either the raw materials or human capability to take many of these ideas towards mass production. And on the other side, global supply chains are deeply entrenched in or invested in classical technology, so they cannot move away. The Chinese or Koreans or Germans, for that matter, cannot switch away from what they do because it has a social, economic, and political cost to what they want to do. And on the other side, it has to be a cooperative endeavor, and I think an Indian approach platform. And I would say that we've been discussing with Anjali how our neighboring regions, which are very rich in critical minerals, like countries of Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, very nearby, whom we have a very good relationship, can actually be an important player in how do we go forward. So the key message here is the innovative approaches like circularity are key to making minerals uncritical. This is we have to remember we're not trying to celebrate critical minerals. Our sustainability, our resilience to our economy will come from making these things uncritical. And we hope that this today's methodology that we present and the work that we're going to do going to help us make things uncritical, more sustainable, and more resilient. So thank you for giving me this time, and I hope some of these words were useful for what we do later. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Saxena. We are now pleased to formally launch the report on the technological roadmap for EV battery recycling. I would like to call upon all the authors to join the speakers at the dais for the unveiling. Thank you, everyone. We now move on to the presentations of the findings from the report on EV battery circularity. This report offers a detailed analysis of the current landscape and offers more sustainable approach to the recycling framework within the country. To present the findings, I would like to invite Dr. Anjali Singh, Senior Fellow at ICRIER.
Thank you so much, Karthik. So I would like to thank Dr. Amrita Goldar for giving the welcoming remark and Sudhendu Sinha ji for telling us like what challenges currently India is facing. The report which we have launched is titled as Technology Roadmap for EV Battery Recycling, Ensuring Circularity of EV Battery Supply Chain. So, first of all, before I go into the details of the report, I would like to thank the authors and contributors without whose support this work was not possible. I'm really thankful for their support as well as the collaboration on this project. So, we all are aware that India is witnessing accelerated EV adoption driven by policy and regulatory support of central as well as state governments, and this will definitely lead to a increased battery waste, and then there should be a strategy to deal with it. So, as per NITI Aayog, they have done the projection and they have come up with a number that by 2030 we'll be having 90 million electric vehicles on road. And of course, if we have 90 million electric vehicles on road, it means that a huge battery waste. So, but when we are talking about these electric vehicles are powered by lithium ion batteries, and lithium ion battery manufacturing requires critical raw materials. And critical raw material, once we talk about the critical raw material, here is the major concern because India has huge import dependency for these materials. So battery recycling could be one of the possible solution towards dealing with these problems. So if we talk about this report, we are basically divided the whole report in 5 key chapters. In the first chapter, we focus about the supply chain assessment of the end-of-life electric vehicle batteries. In the second chapter, we talk about like how much battery waste will be generated by 2030 to 2050 and how much critical raw material can be recovered from this battery waste. In the third chapter, we talk about the technology assessment of the battery recycling technologies. And in fourth chapter, we talk about the life cycle assessment of the battery technologies. And in fifth chapter, we talk about that geospatial analysis, where the potential location for the new recycling unit should come within the India. As Sudhendu sir has clearly pointed out that when we talk about the battery circularity, there are multiple issues. Starting when we are talking about the battery circularity, so we have tried to identify that across the life cycle, what are the key issues and at what life stage. So if we talk about batteries when it is getting used into electric vehicle, tracking these battery is one of the challenge, where we are talking about the battery passport or battery Aadhaar in India. When we talk about collection and testing, as Sir pointed out very clearly, that due to the involvement of informal sector, collection is really a challenge. And once during this project, when we were talking to different stakeholders, we came to a point that there has been a lot of confusion about the transportation of these batteries, that how these batteries can be safely transferred from one place to another place. When we talk about the recycling processes, there has been going forward, we are going to face a lot of challenges related to the recycling equipment and also the specialty chemicals which will be needed by this industry. Again, when we talk about recycling industry, they are facing lot of feedstock instability. This feedstock instability is basically coming because of the lesser waste coming right now. At this stage, lesser waste is getting generated by electric vehicle sector, which will going forward will increase. But again, China has come up with a new policy for black mass, which can create issues for the feedstock stabilities. And if we talk about the recovered critical raw material, there has been issues related to the testing, validation, and standardization of the recovered critical minerals. So in this study, we have tried to project the EV battery waste, and we have considered three different scenarios: business as usual, transformative scenarios, and accelerated scenarios. The details of the scenarios has been mentioned in the report, and we just got we'll be producing somewhere 37 to 80 gigawatt hour of waste in 2030, which will be going forward will by 2040 it will increase by 7 times, and by 2040 it will be increased by 10 times. While calculating these battery waste, we have considered the dynamic reuse percentage. Going over the time, we are assuming that the reuse of these batteries will increase. To get the battery waste in kilotons, we have considered two different sub scenarios of different batteries chemistry, where we have taken sub scenario 1, 98% of NMC and 2% of LFP. Sub scenario 2, where we have taken 20% of NMC and 80% of LFP. As we see very clearly that in India, LFP batteries are getting adopted widely. The finding of our work matches well with NITI Aayog report. They have also predicted that by 2030, somewhere 59 gigawatt hour of battery waste will be generated from electric vehicle sector. In these two scenarios, we have tried to project the demand of how the demand of critical raw material will grow. And what we have identified from going forward from 2030 to 2040, this demand of critical raw materials are going to increase by 11 times. But in 2040, the reuse of these batteries increases. Hence, it is going to further increase by 2.5%. And the critical mineral needed by LFP will be lesser, because in LFP battery chemistry, only lithium is the critical mineral. We have also, what we have done in this study, that for decade wise, we have calculated that how much EV battery waste will be generated. And from this battery waste, how much material can be recovered, which can meet the demand of the battery manufacturing sector, which is somewhere varying between 25% to 40%. And we very clearly know from BWMR 2022, Battery Waste Management Rule 2022, that by 27, the 5% recycled materials are mandated to used in new battery, which need to be further increased by 20%. So in this chapter, we have tried to assess the recycling technologies, and we are assessing these technology on three key parameters: technical, economic, and environment. And under each criteria, we have considered different sub-criteria, which has been listed here. We have considered four technology: hydrometallurgy, acid leaching, hydrometallurgy, bioleaching, and direct recycling. We have collected the data from the literature and from the stakeholder consultations, and we have used fuzzy topses method to come up with a decision that which technology is best on which criteria. So from this analysis, we find out that hydrometallurgy, acid leaching is the technology which wins over the technical front, whereas direct recycling is the technology which score highest on economic and environmental front. So direct recycling is at a very early stage and it is under development. So but we come to conclusion that we should promote this technology, because as India is adopting LFP battery technology, direct recycling is a very good technology to recycle LFP battery chemistries. We have done, so we identify that NMC 811 and LFP batteries are the one which is getting used into this sector. So we have done life cycle assessment of those two battery technology, and we have done cradle to gate assessment, and we have taken the functional unit of 1 kilowatt hour. In this, when we are doing the cradle to gate assessment, we are using the steps involved is mineral extraction, mineral processing, and manufacturing. We are not using huge stage of the life of the battery. From here, one we got we realized that the GHG impacts of NMC is higher when we do this analysis on a per kg basis. But once we change the units to 1 kilowatt hour, then NMC is the more green chemistry. Going forward, I'll show that. So if we compare this battery chemistries produced from the virgin material, the reduction can be reduced, the carbon emissions can be reduced by 50% for for the NMC technologies. And then we have also compared if battery technologies are getting manufactured by the recycled material. For the NMC case, the carbon emission reduces by the 19%, and for the LFP case, this reduction is very small, or we can call it insignificant. The reason for the insignificancy is because the LFP offers low energy density, and it has lower energy consumption during the direct recycling process in comparison to hydrometallurgy process, and very little amount of material is getting recovered from the LFP. That is the reason that the emissions are reducing by a very insignificant amount. We have tried to, as we are going forward, because battery waste is going to increase, we are trying to understand that how many more recycling units will be needed to handle this waste. So from our analysis, the minimum number of 11 new recycling units will be needed of the 10,000 capacity by 2030. And to identify the location of these recycling units, we have followed different steps where we have done the mapping of current EV battery ecosystem. We have mapped the industrial zones of India. We have estimated the population densities of electric vehicle, and we have done the distance analysis and connectivity with the road to suggest the new location of these recycling unit. So here we have mapped recyclers of India, and we have divided into two categories: black mass producers and metal extractors. And we have assumed, while doing this analysis, we have assumed that all these recyclers will achieve a capacity of 10,000 metric ton by 2026. We have done state-wise EV population density. We can clearly see that Karnataka, Maharashtra, Delhi, NCR, and Uttar Pradesh are showing high EV density from this map. And these are the proposed locations. Some of the key locations are: we require two facilities in eastern part of the Uttar Pradesh. We require two more facilities in Gujarat and one in Maharashtra. And in southern part of the India, we require one facility in Telangana and two facilities in Karnataka and one facility in Kerala. So based on this study, we have come up with some policy recommendations. And we have come up with total 15 recommendations, which has been explained in detail in the report. But we have categorized it as the life cycle of the EV batteries. So, and in that, and we have also identified which are the key target stakeholder. So if we talk about at the use stage, there should be a national level online separate dashboard or platform. A dashboard linked with the Vahan dashboard needed to be developed for monitoring and tracing of these batteries. If we talk about the end of first life of batteries, um, so the problem here comes as the designation of these EV batteries as a hazardous waste creates a undue burden to follow hazardous waste handling regulations and also hamper the trade of these batteries. So there should be a separate policy for the second life application of the batteries. The third one is collection of end of life batteries. So there should be like EPR credit system is based on the self reporting by the producers, which open up the possibility of fraudulent claims. Producers might report higher recycling and collection rates than they have actually achieved, leading to inaccurate compliances record. Stringent and standardized enforcement of the accounting and auditing rule on EPR certificate holders are needed. That if we talk about the R&D initiative, we need to promote the R&D initiative on the technologies such as direct recycling. For that, and if we talk about the infrastructure requirement, there is a need for infrastructure requirement. By 2030, we require more infrastructure. Again, if we talk, the final recommendation is at the end of life of recycling of the battery. Here, I would like to comment that the Government of India should prioritize safeguarding the interest of domestic recycling, securing critical raw material outflow from the country in light of China's new black mass policy. This can be achieved by increasing export duties on the black mass production. Also, export duties on the black mass production incentives, focusing on the processing and refining capacities, and encouraging technological advancement and FDI in this area. And also, we have realized that there is no dedicated HSN code for tracking of the black mass, which is also needed and which will be really beneficial for this sector. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comprehensive presentation. I would request you to please present Shri Sudhendu Sinha, sir, with a token of our appreciation. Thank you, sir. I would request you to present Dr. Amrita Goldar with a token of our appreciation. Thank you. We'll now have a tea and a coffee break. Meanwhile, you can also grab a copy of a report from the registration desk. We'll reconvene by 11:15 for the panel discussion. Thank you, everyone. I would request everyone to take their seats. We would be beginning with a panel discussion in few minutes. Welcome back, everyone. I trust you had a refreshing break. We now enter one of the most anticipated segments of today's program, the panel discussion on closing the loop strategies for EV battery recycling and circularity. This session will explore the challenges and opportunities of building a circular EV battery ecosystem in India. We are fortunate to have a distinguished panel of experts who will share their perspectives. I request the panelists to take the seats on the dais. We have with us today Dr. Sandip Chatterjee, Senior Advisor at Sustainable Electronics Recycling International. We have Dr. Rashi Gupta joining us online. She is Managing Director of Vision Mechatronics. We have Ms. Pooja Jain, Founder and CEO of Elementary Technologies. Mr. Vijaytan Ganti, Senior General Manager at Mahindra and Mahindra Limited. Mr. Utkarsh Singh, CEO and co-founder of Batex Energy. And we have Dr. Shashwat Anand, postdoctoral researcher at UC Berkeley, joining us virtually. This session will be moderated by Dr. Anjali Singh, Senior Fellow at ICRIER. I invite Dr. Anjali Singh to begin this session.
Thank you, Karthik. Okay, so I'll start my question with Chatterjee sir. So sir, as we are aware that we have PLI for ACC battery manufacturing. So we would like to know your opinion that should we have a PLI for recycling industry in India or not? And if there will be a PLI, then what should be the criteria for the same?
Thank you, madam. This is a very important question, I should say. If you are coming to a new generation of creating EV system in the country, you require to have a sustainable supply chain. So as you all know, you only told during the gathering that we are highly dependent on imported materials. So this is one of the important thing. But unfortunately, for last 2 decades, we have seen black mass is going out of the country. So we have to promote the recycling. But before recycling, we have to see the longer life of those batteries. So repurposing is also another industry we should nurture. So repurposing and recycling require a government intervention. Like PLI, we should also promote RLI in the country, recycling link incentive, and where the capital equipment as well as some of the capex and opex should be also subsidized, because as you know, you only mentioned that the collection is the real challenge. So their initial days we require to dole out some money for collecting material from the informal channel. This is one thing, but that will not end the process from the government side. Our ministry, I was a senior director and group coordinator for Ministry of Electronics and IT till 2024. We have initiated a project and that is going fine. This only ministry tried this thing. Integrate the informal sector to a cluster development program, because MSME ministry is having a CDP program, and we are creating 30 cluster in 30 states for e-waste. Similar things should be done in the lithium ion battery, because the cost in the informal sector is very low. You have to handhold them indigenous technology, and this is not a rocket science, it's not quantum technology. Many research organizations, including our CMAD Hyderabad, having a center of excellence on e-waste management, are doing a decent technology in hydrometallurgy and pyrometallurgy, lithium ion battery, handed over 50 companies. Okay. So either do not start the new research on lithium and battery, hydrometallurgy, pyrometallurgy. You should assess where CMAT goes wrong. Then augment that technology next level. Another thing I have seen from the government pushing the research, starting the same method ended up in a certain level of technology. We require to augment the technology already existing in various IITs and CMAT and CSR lab. They should be taken to the next level so that the yield and performance can be improved. And also we should map them with the global standard. So these are the few things government should take, so that PLI, or rather I should call it RLI. RLI should be popular, but the collection can also be streamlined there. So these are my initial comment.
The same, that PLIs will mostly support the bigger players. So my question is like, what kind of incentive government should offer for mid-level or small level recycling businesses?
I think I answered this. If you see the Ministry of Electronics and IT very recently had a scheme called SPECS that was for component, but it was extended for e-waste recycling and battery recycling as well. So we are giving a subsidy, 25% subsidy for capital equipment. So if you see, lithium and battery recycling plant is not very costly. So the equipment cost can be subsidized. I should say it should be, at least for the small player, we can go up to the 50% subsidy. This is one thing. And whatever the CDP I am talking about, integrating the informal sector, where MSME ministry is giving subsidy up to 80%. So the 20% has to be taken by the informal operators to create a SUV. So we are managing this cluster or informal operators through some of the accelerators, taking the technology from our lab, hand-holding them to the cluster, setting up their plants, and when it is operational, they will leave it. So the entire accelerators cost are being borne by Ministry of Electronics and IT. So the monitoring committee, I'm the chair of that committee. So I'm just looking at it is taking a shape. So I think this is a pilot. This is a pilot for Ministry of Electronics IT. If you are teaching them, because there are 2 million informals in the waste management system in the country. So we are giving a trigger. So we'll be addressing 1,500 per cluster. So that is 30 multiplied by 1,500 will be catering. So if you they know that this is the process, we can upgrade and you can go the formal route. So this will be a wonders for the country. So 30 can be 3,000 and 30,000. Then this will be the source for material source for black mass or whatever you call for the big company. So that is a connect. I'm interested. The dot required to be joined. So this is the path breaking path, I should say, we are nurturing, and it will be successful.
Thank you, sir. My next question is to Vijay. How can EV OEMs ensure the traceability and transparency of the battery materials throughout the entire supply chain, from production to recycling, to meet regulatory requirements?
Thanks, Anjali. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Yeah, so as an OE, I understand that there's an expectation on us. I'll answer this in two parts, right? So one short answer is the supply chain part of it, which as an OEM, irrespective of we making EVs or regular vehicles, we already have a structured, very well set up supply chain systems within. So wherein even today for every vehicle that we are selling out, so I represent the Mahindra Last Mile Mobility, which is the three-wheeler electric part of our business. So for every vehicle that we put out, we have a mechanism wherein we can say where did the battery come from, where the tire come from, where is the harness coming from. So there is an end-to-end traceability as such already in place, right? Now, coming to the battery part of it, which is the subject of interest for this forum, uh, the regulatory guidelines for the safety already ask us for traceability. For example, the AIS 156, which is the HV safety standard for the three-wheeler part, already asks us to ensure that there is a traceability of the HV battery. There has to be a traceability from a cell to a pack, and also the charger, for example, to ensure that tomorrow if some untoward incident happens, we are able to trace it back. So that's already in place. Now, what are we doing there? If some of these things are uh, very much what is there and being discussed with the professor in the morning and everywhere, it's how can we move from a Web 2 to a Web 3 kind of a setup, right? How can we bring in the blockchains of the world, everything? But I think for all of that, we are waiting for scale, to be honest, right? I think these things today, Web 2 systems are there, like the simple SAP ecosystem is helping us maintain some of these databases, and we can actually tell what is uh, where is the battery coming from, where is the cell coming from. And future, I'm pretty sure, I think as technologies advance, we are always willing to adapt to them. Yeah.
Thanks, Vijay. My next question is to Dr. Rashi Gupta. How are battery manufacturing addressing the challenge of battery life extension and degradation to ensure longer life and reduce the frequency of recycling and second life applications?
Thank you so much for having me today at this event. Basically, see what happens is when you're looking at a battery, it will live its first life in any application. And post that, we can look at it as a second life use case in a repurposed application. So there is a difference between reuse, repurpose, and recycle. So when we look at these three aspects of it, repurposing and reusing of the first life battery is a significantly important step in terms of having the ecosystem more sustainable and circular. So like we in collaboration with MG Motors have launched the product called Relive, which is a second life battery. It is more of a high voltage second life battery for the CNI sector to be used under stationary storage. So this gives you an advantage to postpone the recycling, which is a capital intensive and energy intensive process. So it is very important that we do a second life evaluation before this. Another important aspect is that the Bureau of Indian Standards in India is developing a new standard which will address the second life and reuse of batteries. UL already has it, and this is also going to be coming in India in a very short while now. It's already under draft stage. So this will also help reducing the impact on critical minerals as well as mining, as well as it will reduce the overall energy requirement in terms of having the batteries recycled. It will be a postponed thing. Secondly, we can conserve the critical minerals right there and reuse this, extending the life. And if you have a good battery management system, which is made for the second life systems, you can actually extend your life of the battery for 3 to 5 years further. So this overall creates a lot of good impact. And since recycling at the moment today is a liability model and not an asset model, it is very, very imperative that we take up second life approach before going for recycling. So those were my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rashi. I have one more question for you. What kind of work is being done in India to predict battery failure during the use phase? And same question is for Vijay also, if you can answer.
No, can you repeat what was the failure? I did not hear the second part of the question.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
What kind of work is being done in India to predict battery failure during the use phase?
Okay. So what happens is in India, we are doing preventive predictive monitoring where we can predict 15 days in advance that your batteries are going to go bad. And this is a special feature of our BMS that we have. And with this, that is one way of identifying. The second way of identifying is once there is a failure. I mean, then after that, you do a root cause analysis and find out what has gone wrong with the batteries, and then probably change something out of it, and then come back to a situation where you would discard the entire module or replace a module, or maybe just repair a module, which is less likely and doesn't happen most of the time. So that is important. Also, if you have active balancing in place, this can really, really enhance the life of your battery significantly, as well as it can also give you more depth of discharge out of your batteries. And these technologies really help in advancing battery failures, detecting battery failures pretty much in advance so that your supply chain can be in place for larger systems, even in that, for that matter, in EVs. If you can detect failure well in advance, you know how to deal with the situation. So that is what is happening in India right now. And in fact, India is also the first ever country to write the to write and publish a battery management system standard. Also, a new system standards will come in for EVs as well.
Yeah, so again, the answer is what I meant earlier. Again, we have a very robust safety mechanism in place with the AI standards or whatever. So the first thing is to avoid failure, like Rashi was saying. We have a robust design for safety is what we call, right? To beat the how we package the batteries, how the BMS is there. That's one aspect of it. Now, to answer your question, let's see, even if you do all of this, how do we prevent, or how do we sense this? Again, with EVs, what is happening is these all EVs are inherently connected, right? So the vehicle stack is already electrified and connected. So that means we as an OE would have the data of our vehicles flowing in. I mean, we are like sitting on terabytes of data right now, right? With around 2 lakh vehicles on the road. So what we are able to do is, again, what like Rashi was saying, I'll put a word to it. It's about the predictive diagnosis, right? How are you able to observe patterns, right? How can you apply learning algorithms there, and how can you better set a fail safe mechanism in place using the data available, and you prepare your, let's say, your distribution or your service ecosystem in a way that you are able to act on it. Let's say a flag is there, we have a service team on the ground who can go and act on it. So I think those are the two sides of the coin of ensuring that we will not let any vehicles or batteries fail on the ground. Yeah.
Thank you, Vijay. So my next question is to Pooja Jain. As we hear the perspective of Chatterjee sir about the PLI, I would like to know that if government comes up with a PLI for the recycling sector, will it be useful for the recycling industry? And what kind of incentives can be helpful for the upcoming players?
Thank you, Anjali, for giving us the opportunity. I think your report is really, really well done. So congratulations to the author. Maybe a little bit about my background and, from where I speak. So I started elementary technologies 2 years back. We are looking to take black mass as an input and refine it to make critical minerals. In terms of, I just want to make two comments overall on how I see this. I think we talk a lot about recycling industry or critical minerals as a challenge. I think from our vantage point, I really see this as a huge opportunity for India. If you see which are the large economies in the world today, China has already leapfrog in this aspect, right? They have a head start of 15 years in this industry. And India is just starting to realize, the criticality of these minerals and also the opportunity subset. I think where the entire trade dynamics are going in the world today and how India is positioned, I feel that India has a huge opportunity, whether it comes to, building relationships with the US, the Europe, and our own internal consumption and opportunity as a recycler, right? So I think, just in that background, I feel that, recycling is a huge opportunity. And India can be a China plus one strategy if I look at the overall global scale. Just in that aspect, how do we think about EV as an entire ecosystem versus thinking about it as a piecemeal, right? And what I see, government is trying from various angles, right? They said that, oh, we were importing the entire battery pack, let's put an embargo on that. So we started importing cells into the country, and at least the BMS system kind of started flourishing. We have a lot of India OEMs, which who are doing a remarkable job in making sure that EVs are available to the consumers, right? So that part is kind of getting solved. Then we launched our PLI for all the advanced chemistry cells. So that's something I think at least few of the big players have invested. We also know some startups are kind of taking a leap and doing this. In terms of, therefore, I see that there's a very piecemeal and choco, like not a comprehensive framework of where, how do we develop this ecosystem. And I think that's where, as a recycler or as a startup, I feel we struggle a lot, because we are coming from an angle of saying how do we protect our environment. So a lot of CPCB and state pollution control boards regulations are being put on a recycler, saying, oh, it's a hazard category 3, and you cannot put your plant here, you cannot do this. But in terms of incentivizing, do we have enough? I feel there is a lot more that the government can do. And, whether PLI is the right model or not, I don't know. Because again, I think, the minute you see there is a business opportunity, you start seeing, 2-3 players who are now saying, how do we get disproportionate share of this business, right? Versus saying, let's build the entire ecosystem and more players need to come. I think, Anjali, the way you guys have written, right, that, this is a big opportunity. India at least need 11 more recyclers at a much larger scale just to cater to India. India recycling, like forget about what we can do for the globe, right? So, I think, first I would say how government should at least not be a road blocker for recyclers. I think that's my first request. And there are various ways, how do the approval processes are more streamlined, and how this is considered a industry which is of, strategic importance for the country. I think, some of that needs to be absolutely put in place, and it needs to be, I think, more balanced and cannot go to, few players so that they take an advantage and other players are kind of left behind. Because as a country, I think we need more recyclers versus less. Yeah.
Pooja, I have one more question for you. What are the issues in the finance front faced by the recycling company seeking to expand from the small scale to the commercial scale, let's say 5,000 to 10,000 metric ton per annum, and what capacities these businesses are profitable? Can you?
So it's a great question, Anjali, and I have been to China now 2 times. Spent 10 days every time I went, and there the recycling industry for lithium-ion battery is like a Jamnagar equivalent of what you can think of in the oil and gas sector, right? They are huge, and there are inherent advantages if you think about that scale of operation. Because it's like a chemical processing, right? So the higher the scale, there are inherent advantages. And I see, first of all, in India, what kind of capital is coming behind this. And I'm also a funded startup, but we were funded by a venture capital, right? And I asked my VCs, I said, why are you even investing behind a very brick and mortar kind of business? It's not a it's not like every time you'll have to put in capital for this business to grow, right? And they said, oh, early on we want to come in because we think that the opportunity is large. But honestly, I think a more traditional form of capital needs to be infused in these businesses for it to achieve a certain scale, and for these businesses to be profitable So that I think is one very critical aspect which I see missing, that today most of the startups in India or companies which are doing recycling are funded by venture capital funds versus like a more traditional debt funding, or like Mr. Chatterjee, you were mentioning, right? How does government incentivize and says that you get some capital subsidies? I think that's one. Also, as a startup, I have no balance sheet. I have like no record, right? I came from a corporate world, and I started this. So getting any banks to give me a loan to even put in any money, or even for my working capital, I think is very hard in this country even now. So I think, again, if we are saying that we have launched a critical minerals mission, how do we support at least the financing part of it? I feel very maybe it's important. I would love for actually Utkarsh to also comment, because these guys are ahead of us in this journey, and I'm sure he has probably more richer perspective as they see it from their standpoint.
Yeah, could you please tell us?
Yeah. Firstly, thank you, Anjali ji, and the entire career team for putting up this report together. I remember a lot of sessions that we had together to understand, which not only added value to the career report, but also to our startups as well, because we could understand the kind of questions that they were asking, and we never thought like that. So thank you for that. And thank you, Pooja ji, for mentioning about the kind of capital that is required and the avenues that are there. So as a startup today, we have been for last 2 years, we have been one of the players who have been producing black mass at scale. And now we are a hydrometallurgy player where we operate 1200 metric ton of hydrometallurgy unit. And there have been series of events and understanding throughout the process, out of which I can share. Uh, Firstly, adding to the question that you asked previously, that at what scale the hydrometallurgy plant can become profitable. I think for us, even at 1200 metric ton, we see profitability coming in that plant. It is about how much you can optimize the hydrometallurgy process. So it's not about that there is certain scale required, and that is the advantage of India. Not, I would say, if you want to do same thing in US or Europe, you will need to install at least 10,000 metric tons to get scale. But in India, if you are able to optimize your processing cost, I think the profitability can be achieved. In terms, if you want me to put it in terms of numbers, I would say for us, and after looking around in the industry for 3 years in India specifically, the cost of setting up a hydrometallurgical plant end to end is close to 2 lakh rupees per metric ton. That is the cost that we have came across, wherein the cost to put up a black mass unit is close to 2000 rupees per metric ton. So that is the differentiation between India versus anywhere around the world on the western side, excluding China, because China also has that kind of volumes as a feedstock to support big hydrometallurgical processes. But we have seen already that China imposed a ban on the imports of black mass. And because of that, even I think, Poojaji, when you went last to China, you must have also realized that because of the ban, many of their big hydrometallurgical processes and plants and machineries were having a lot of idle capacity. That is something should not happen for India. So I believe that Indian ecosystem has its advantage. Therefore, all the people around the world are looking at us for refining the black mass or the extraction of critical materials from different feedstocks.
Okay, Utkarsh, when we are talking to you, I have one more question for you. Our study identifies direct recycling as the best recycling technology on economic and environmental front. So we want to know that what is the status of this technology, where it falls at the level of commercialization, and by when we see this technology to be used into recycling industry?
Yeah.
So any
So
comments on
I
that?
would actually would want to double click on direct recycling. And when you set up a battery recycling unit, especially for the hydrometallurgy, it's not that you just think of it and you put it. You have to run through series of 1,000 to 2,000 experiments for at least 2.5 to 3 years, and then you realize what is the best process. And I would say any recycler who is scaling up today, and I think you will agree with me that have run all kind of things that you can think of for extraction of the metal. Now, what is direct recycling? So, direct recycling is nothing. It is again a kind of a chemical process where instead of different acids, water is used and solvent extraction is bypassed. So what happens in a hydrometallurgical process, there is solvent extraction wherein you use different kinds of solvent to extract and leach the various other metals, wherein in direct recycling you can bypass that stage. Now I want to be very specific in my small understanding of this sector. Direct recycling is only feasible for one particular kind of continuous feedstock. For example, if we want to process the cell manufacturing scrap of, let's say, Amar Raja, Reliance, or Tata, who's having a cell manufacturing unit, then definitely direct recycling plant will make more sense. But in case you want to process a very regular black mass feed in a direct recycling process, it's not going to work out, because in a hydrometallurgical process you have a very diverse range to take different kinds of feed and put it into your plant, wherein in direct recycling that is not the case. So I believe to that question, direct recycling will take up, but it will be very much concised to the industrial parks of these big cell giga factories, and that is where they will have a similar process. For example, Brump for kettle, or Posco Chemicals for LG Chem, or EcoPro Materials for Samsung CNT. So it is an exact kind of model that will come for direct recycling.
Is it a efficient technology for LFP batteries also?
Again, LFP battery, when you see what is direct recycling for LFP, right? You will crush the battery and you convert into black mass. The black mass from end of life battery will always have impurities like copper, ferrous, and different kinds of impurities. To run a direct recycling process for LFP will again not be feasible in my understanding, wherein if you want to process the cell manufacturing scrap of LFP, direct recycling will work out there, because in the cell manufacturing scrap, it is basically either the scrap coming out of slitting, coming out of slurry formation, or directly cell assembly. So there is no impurities into that. So direct recycling can be more beneficial there, wherein also in our process today of LFP recycling, as a company we are also doing LFP recycling today. We also, for LFP specifically, sometimes we bypass the solvent extraction method, but for that first we study the feed of what kind of feed has come for the black mass. So it differs from feed to feed, but there's a difference between direct recycling and bypassing the solvent extraction method.
Utkarsh, as you work in second life applications also, we just wanted to know that what role do EV battery recycler play in establishing second life applications for used batteries, and what are the challenge in certifying these batteries for new user?
Yeah, so uh, as a company, first 1.5 years, we were actually second life players only because we had to fund our startup. So it was more lucrative to start, because for a chemical process, it takes years to set up. Uh, but in our understanding, for second life, you get today, let's say, battery waste, specifically for NMC, if we talk about, you get somewhere in the range of 1,500 per kilowatt hour to 2,000 rupees per kilowatt hour. and 1 kWh is equivalent to 7 kgs. Wherein when you refurbish these packs, so you will only get certain part of it which is in good form, right, which is in good capacity, and in case if there is no capacity, you have to take it for recycling. Now let's focus only on the good cells. So that if refurbished can be sold somewhere around 3000 to 5000 per kilowatt hour basis in today's market, wherein 2 years back it would go up to 12,000 per kilowatt hour, and you will get the batteries at 3000 per kilowatt hour. But in my understanding, battery refurbishing uh, is is actually a necessity that we have come across in our experience, because when you talk to big OEMs, they focus majorly on what cost or what value addition we can provide to them. When we take the entire recycling process, so of course, included with the EPR money, it will make sense, and if we can match somewhere very close to the refurbishing value. But at the end of the day, as a recycler, you feel bad about it, because there was energy into that cell. Firstly, you use some energy to discharge the batteries, then you whatever energy was there, you have made those cells dead and have recycled. So you should not recycle if there is energy. You should use it for refurbishing for sure.
Anjali, can I ask a question to Utkarsh? Utkarsh, typically, the cells or the batteries that you guys receive, how much percentage of cells would you consider are in good health that can go for refurbishing or
Yeah.
repurposing?
Sure. So let's bifurcate into two chemistries, NMC and LFP. So if you look at and in LFP also there are two kinds of cell, like which is prismatic and then there is a cylindrical cell. In cylindrical LFP cells, I would say it is close to 35 to 40%, which is I'm talking about end of life usage. If you talk about prismatic, it is close to 10 to 15%. If you talk about NMC, and in NMC, you can break it into two parts. One is tier A and tier 2. So tier A, I would call Samsung, LG, Litian. There you will get close to 35 to 40%, wherein in the cells like tier 2, you will get just again maximum 20% for refurbishing. And there's a big market out there for, even if you don't want to do assembly of the cells, you can directly just segregate, charge, discharge, and sell the cells as it is. Because if you ever have wandered around the markets, like to buy vegetables and all, you will see small street lamps there, right? Initially you would have noticed that these vendor lamps, you were plugged in with the lead acid battery, but recently you would have realized that these lamps are made out of lithium ion batteries now. So that is where these cells are being used, and even in the solar street lamps. Yes.
Okay, my next question is for Pooja as well as for Utkarsh, both of you. You are talking about the we are talking about recycled critical mineral. So, if you are okay, Dr. Rashi, do you have any comments?
Yes, I did have comments on this. Like Utkarshi just said, that these are currently used in the street light and with the street vendors. But we also have applications for the CNI sector where we've installed second life batteries of about 50 kilowatt hours to a welding industry. So at an industrial level also this is happening, and it is I mean you can see the second life use of batteries in various applications. So bigger applications are also quite possible, and we have demonstrated that. So that was a comment I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Rashi. So this question is for Pooja and Utkarsh. So when we are talking about the recycled critical mineral, we just want to understand that uh, how the performance get affected of the battery if it is manufactured from recycled critical mineral, and on the other thing is like how much percentage we can mix or a virgin as well as recycled material to manufacture a new battery.
This one is an easy one. I think there is no difference because the chemistry, what you're producing is exactly the same. There are multiple technical papers which have established that if the crystalline structure and the impurity profile is the same, then there is no reason why a battery with a recycled material would behave any different from a virgin material. That's my.
I'll just add to it by giving a very basic example. Let's talk about lithium. What is lithium? Lithium is one of the metal in the periodic table. So any metal that is there in the periodic table, its fundamental phenomena is it can neither be created nor destroyed. So just think lithium as of gold. So you can use gold, you can melt it, you can again reuse it, you can again make it 24 karat. So exactly lithium or any other metal, you can keep changing it again and again. There will be only efficiency loss, which is due to the lack of the technology. So, and that is why China is ahead. Their loss is like 3%. Our Indian loss is around 7 to 8%. US and Europe is even far behind. Now, the only problem is whether today India can make battery grade material and is it proven or not. So I think we are still a little bit far behind on that because we need cell manufacturing or cathode active material players to evolve in India. And once it happens, I think there is no difference between recycled material versus mined materials. But definitely big players around the world, they always dope it. They don't use the recycled material as it is. They first of all they take the recycled material. There's a refiner who's like a cathode active material player. They have a unit of refining. They refine it. They always before using into the cell they dope with the fresh mined material and they find it much more convenient.
Thank you, Utkarsh. My next question is to Shashwat. As we are aware that a lot of research is happening on NMC 955, how NMC 955 is better than NMC 811 in terms of performance and recyclability? Your comments.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to thank Anjali for inviting me on this panel, first of all. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. I think if we keep every other factor constant within the cathode material and compare between NMC 955 and NMC 811, let's say we keep things like particle size and things like that constant, I would say NMC 955 would have a slightly better capacity, maybe 10 to 20 milliamp hours per gram. And also because of that may also be slightly better in terms of energy density. Where the place where it may suffer a little bit is degradation in terms of cycle life. So I think as you use the battery more and more, it would degrade faster because of the higher nickel content. I think as far as the other metric of I think rate capability of the cathode is concerned, it may be pretty similar to the NMC 811. As far as recycling is concerned, I would say it's very similar to NMC 811 because it's essentially the same elements involved.
Okay, Shashwat, so I believe that I can see the benefit of just reducing the critical mineral uses in this battery because from 10% we'll reduce it to 5%.
Yeah, yes.
My second question to you is like, how can research ecosystem be aligned with the industry need to be accelerate the commercialization of the next generation battery recycling technologies? And what role can collaboration between academia, startup, and industry play in this process? Your comments?
I think one place where at least academia or new advances in academia can help in industry is the automation of experiments. All around the world, I think people are setting up these autonomous experiment labs. And I think if we want to improve recycling technology and do more experiment or at least large-scale experimentation for recycling, I think autonomous labs can help a lot. I think India still hasn't looked in that direction yet, but if we start thinking in that direction in the long run, we may benefit a lot.
From EV perspective, can you tell us that which other battery chemistries are suitable for EV if we talk apart from lithium-ion batteries?
So I won't be able to identify a clear winner. I think for the time being, I would just think of lithium-ion batteries.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Shashwat. Okay, my next question is to Chatterjee, sir. What role should government play in standardizing battery design and manufacturing processes to ensure that battery EV are compatible with the recycling and second life application? Your comments?
This is one of the important thing, the standardization. If you see, we allowed all the EV users to take any chemistry from different places of the world and using it. So that always create a lot of problem, like the recycling technology required to be augmented if the chemistry is different. So I'll be saying, first of all, for enhancing the repurposing of the battery or refurbishing of the battery, it should have a modular design. So that dismantling will be easier, it will be similar. So that is also not happening. If you see all the companies are offering the BMS. Second point, it should have a standardized cell chemistry. LFP and MNC are better, chemistry for recycling technology. So we should have some standard on that. So that will be the things. And third standard should be the swappable battery technology. So this will be the few things we should enforce. And of course, that EPR is the policy tool government has already been using, but the recycling target as well as the tracking of the battery chemistry through QR code or battery passports, those things will be important to channelize the battery in the right place. So that would be my take.
Thank you, sir.
Anjali, I have a comment to make. I think whenever we think about government interventions, I sometimes feel that, they have to be a framework, but being too prescriptive can actually suffocate the industry and, pull them out of innovation, right? Because, anyways, when we are talking about EV transition for an auto OEM, there is very little room for them to differentiate. And if we again are being too prescriptive that, this is the only cell chemistry, then I think, the innovation will also get hurt. So I think, we have to be cognizant of that. I think would be one comment.
Thanks, Pooja. My next question is to Vijay. Do the I'll specifically talk about Mahindra, not EV OEMs. Does Mahindra follows the circularity and circular design principles in their business, and if yes, then how?
Okay, sure. So I'll also specifically talk about Mahindra Last Mile. So I know that there's a lot of, you've seen the BEVs and lots of things is there on that, but we specifically are from the three-wheeler ecosystem where, like I said, we have put close to 2 lakh EVs on the road. And I can answer this question using a lot of jargons, but I'll try to keep it very simple, right? Yes, we do, but we do that keeping in mind what does it mean to the end consumer also, right? In terms of the cost escalations or whatever, right? We cannot do technology for technology's sake. If I'm playing in a three-wheeler industry and I'm competing with a 2.5 lakh vehicle, and if I have to put a 3 lakh vehicle out there, we need to be working in that premises. So how do we do that? Of course, we do ensure that circularity is taken care of. And there are some basic principles of design, right? All of us here would know you design for safety, right? You design for manufacturability. Similarly, there is design for circularity or design for recyclability. If I talk about a battery pack, right? As a small thing as like Chatterjee sir has said, uh, having a modular design. So all of our cells, the packs are very, very modular, right? So we have like a portfolio of starting from an e-rickshaw to a three-wheeler to a four-wheeler commercial vehicle. And our endeavor is to ensure that it is as modular as possible within all of them. And the standardization of the cells is also there so that we need not deal when I'm talking with, let's say, Utkarsh tomorrow for him to recycle this. There is no much complexity there. Second is, again, like I said, to give a very simple example, the box where the battery is enclosed, right? Choosing it to be aluminum versus a plastic, right? It's today it seems a very, very silly decision, a very silly thing to talk about, but it's also thinking about circularity, right? So it's when I'm doing an aluminum casting thing, then it's easy for me to recover that entire thing at a second thing. The last piece, which I would not be able to comment a lot right now, is again on the Pooja already mentioned the competitive advantage. Uh, how do we, there are partners with whom we constantly work, universities or whatever, where how can we, inside the chemistry itself, right? So this is what I'm talking about outside the battery until now. Now, there are things that can be done also within the cell, and that's today very, very at a nascent stage. And again, an OE would be able to take a bet on that once it achieves the economic scale also, right? It's okay, today somebody is saying that I'll infuse a mineral within the battery and make it a little more circular or something. Now, at what cost and at what, at what scale are we able to do that? We are, of course, pursuing these kind of things. And I think I've answered your question around how we ensure that, we are being responsible also for the circularity aspect of the product. Yeah.
Also, we would like to understand from your company perspective that how are you facilitating the collection and transportation of end-of-life batteries?
Very easy answer. We do not partnerships, right? It's I think all of us here again we have heard it multiple times in multiple panels that EV is not a product; it's an ecosystem play, right? It's not about one person trying to solve the entire thing. It's about us solving it together. So today we are doing it. So we have actually reached out and we are in active discussion with almost all big recyclers, and we have announced just one MOU outside with one party already. And the recycling partner helps us solve the reverse logistics piece, right? So they have a tie-up with somebody. Today we have both manufacturing waste that is picked up from my plants, and very recently, since we have been selling the three-wheeler autos from already 2020, 21, we have some vehicles coming back at the dealerships, and there again this recycling provider with their partner ensures that it is picked up from that dealership using and there are safe practices. Again, the UN guidelines are being followed. Even the EPR credit ecosystem is established, and we within the ambit of all compliances, we take the help of experts that are there on the ground, and then we are doing it today.
Okay, I have another question for you, but I just give you a leverage. You can decide that you want to answer it or not. So, what are the criteria for OEMs to associate with the recyclers or managing the EV battery base? And how do you decide the cost of the spent batteries?
Okay, so it's a difficult questions for the OEMs always, but it's Utkarsh already answered that, right? See, it's also very commonsensical in some sense. I've covered that earlier. One important piece is, of course, compliance, right? That's the first important thing, right? And as Mahindra, so every auto that I sell has the Mahindra logo on it, and then we are responsible, and we'll ensure to be continuing to be responsible in that sense. And so compliance with whatever guidelines, be it the EPR, be it the BWMR, any current and upcoming regulations is one thing. So whoever is a recycler is coming on board has to be understanding of these and has to have these compliances within their business. That is first and easy decision. The second decision is, I would say, very, very sector specific. And I've been annoying Utkarsh and other partners with this specific thing, which he mentioned it, is, ki boss, I'm selling it to a three-wheeler customer, right? Let's say, or a commercial vehicle industry. In the commercial, as such, even if you are going today to buy a new vehicle, right? At some back of the mind, you always have this question of what is the residual value, right? This question is even more when you come to the bottom of the spear, which is a commercial vehicle. This is even more significant when you come to a three-wheeler customer, right? And now tomorrow, if the customer is asking me the question as the OE, now I need somebody to answer that, right? Help me answer that question. And hence the second piece, apart from compliance, is the second CEF, is like the commerce part of it, which is the commercials. How much is that recycling player able to provide for the kg of battery that is getting sent back? And thankfully today, I think, so I was in Germany earlier prior to this, when I was with the German OEM. And like I agree with Pooja and Utkarsh that in India, the recycling players, at least who are there, the top ones, are very, very conscious of that fact. The fact that they're investing a lot in doing all the technology that you've spoken about in your research, to not just do a typical kabaddi wala ecosystem of just doing black mass and giving whatever value, but they are also interested in extracting the best value out of it, right? And hence, I think these are the two main things, and the ecosystem is also working towards that to maximize the value and to be compliant, and that's the ask.
Thanks, Vijay. My next question is to Dr. Rashi Gupta, because Rashi Gupta and as well as to Utkarsh, because you guys are working a lot in second life application of the batteries. What policy or government initiative need to be taken for the second life uses to be widely adopted?
Utkarsh, you want to go first?
Yes, sure. So I think specifically for Second Life, once you make the Second Life product and you sell it into the market, so you are also labeled as a producer, right? Wherein I am just a refurbisher, right? And I may be doing it white label for somebody else. So there is still not clarity into the system that if I become a producer again, so I'm again entitled for some, to get these batteries recycled and all of that kind of entire chain. So that is something firstly going on. So a refurbisher category has to be introduced with the right set of liabilities for the refurbisher. And I do understand that if you are making something, you have to take the ownership of it. But still, the exact same liabilities and the stringent liabilities as the producer, it is enforced on the refurbisher. Secondly, what happens is as a recycler you get the EPR, right? And but there is no incentive from the producers to when we buy the battery and we are refurbishing them, definitely we are paying a higher cost for that. But there is no incentive communication between the refurbisher and the producer. So I think that is also missing. I think refurbishment as a whole is a very, very nascent stage where recycling was in 2021. So, but it will take up very quickly. So these are just two notes from my side.
Dr. Rashi? Is she there? Okay, my next question is to Chatterjee, sir. We are talking a lot about black mass. What is your opinion? Should India consider ban on the export of black mass like other countries like China?
Is there. Do
Okay.
continue.
Dr. Rashi, we would like to hear you. We are not able to hear you.
A certain amount of labeling, testing, and certification, which is very, very important uh, to
In between.
create
Dr.
a
Rashi,
robust
we lost you in between. Can you just speak
infrastructure
from...
mechanism, as well as create a lot of faith Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Can you just give your response from the starting?
Sure. So what I'm saying is that what we need to do is have a testing certification mechanism. Number one. Number two, we need to have labeling in place to get enough confidence of the end user to understand that yes, these batteries will function as good as any new battery that the person would buy. Another important thing is that we need to have some kind of mechanism to gauge what is the end use life remaining of these batteries. Currently, that is not in place. Most important, another thing that I think on a policy framework would be to have collection nodes, which will make this more organized instead of an unorganized sector. Like he said, kabadi wala ka equivalent hame bana diya hai. So we need to somewhere make it a little more organized, and we need to incentivize this. Now, with incentives, I do not mean subsidies anyway. We can incentivize this in many ways, different ways, where a financial incentive is given to the second life and to the recycling people, so that this takes the leap. This entire segment takes a leap, which is very, very crucial for sustainability and circularity. If we do not do that, another important point is availability of data of the first life batteries, which is a big problem throughout. Nobody is sharing any data. Other than that, design of the first life to be used in second life and recycling. Currently, that is also a big challenge. The batteries that are made are not designed in such a fashion to be used in second life or to be used in recycling. The entire thing is scrapped. Now, the reason behind this is that when these manufacturing take place in China, it is cheaper in China to make a new battery and go for recycling rather than going for second use. But in developing nations where the economics are totally different, the value chains and supply chains are different, it makes more sense to have a second life battery in place rather than going for a first life brand new battery every time. So these also points have to be taken care somewhere in the policy mandate and in standardization, so that we can have more effective use of these batteries throughout. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. So, yeah.
This is a very important question. As you know, we are growing in digital technology. As you all know, digital technology is material hungry technology. And with the disruptive technology like AI, IoT, all those things we are pushing, and it will be going to have effect in every sector of the industry. We'll be starting using the critical raw material. In that scenario, we do not know why that last 2 decades we are allowing that black mass to go out of from country. My suggestion would be the government to should procure, because the Rubabin has come up with a plant with our spec scheme in Baroda. So this company who are actually coming out with a refinery, they should be allowed to procure black mass from outside India. So that policy somehow we see in the line of Basel Convention, where transboundary movement of hazardous material is not allowed. So we are the signatory among the 168 countries. But if you see the European many countries, the transboundary movement is going if you know that refineries are available in that country. So those things require to be abandoned very fast, because if you are not creating your own critical raw material resource in the country, so the further development will be of the economy will be, because as you know, China has stopped supplying critical raw material. So in future it will be really challenging for us to pursue the disruptive technology where India can leapfrog actually. So black mass should not be going away. We should have a RLI type of scheme where more investment should come. I will prefer actually to allow all those big refineries coming up in our country to procure material from outside India as well. And then if you are getting enough material, your plant will be stabilized, will be giving a better output, and those internal material will also be factored in such a fashion so that supply chain could be come up. Because if you see the Adani is coming up one copper smelting plant in near their port, Mudra port. So they are now, first of all, they are sourcing the scrap material from outside India. Now they are working with all the e-waste informal sectors in Muradabad and Silampur. So they will be knowing what best things you can offer to the recycling to leave this material instead of going for a potassium cyanide leaching and all. So those things require to be factored in, where carrot and stick approach would be the best approach, I think.
Thank you, sir. Uh, my next question is Utkarsh and Pooja. If India plans to ban export of black mass, do we have enough capability and capacity to handle the upcoming EV battery waste? And also, as we are aware that China has opened its border for black mass import, will this impact the business of Indian recyclers? Basically, I've clubbed two questions, but
Yeah, maybe I think one thing we have to be very thoughtful of why China is doing what it's doing, right? China is not a natural owner of any of these critical minerals. They are mined outside of China. But China created its monopoly because they had the largest refinery capacity and they built it over time. Right today, 90% of lithium comes from China because they have invested behind refining capacity. And when they saw that as an industry they were hurting, because they invested behind the refineries, but there wasn't enough black mass. They said, let's open it up, and instead of calling black mass a waste material, let's permit the entry of this material. And this regulation will start getting implemented July onwards, right? So if you see across the world, everyone is saying, how do I safeguard my own critical minerals? US just, I think, this morning has announced that they will tackle their critical minerals mission on a war footing, right? So they have implemented some emergency literally to say that, we have to mine our own materials, we have to keep it in our country. So I think if you see what every country is trying to do is that, critical minerals will be the new oil of future. And how do you reduce your dependence on any outside country to keep it in your own country? I think just from that logic, Anjali, I feel that, as a country, we have to have at least a point of view on what we want to do. Now, your question on in the interim, as we are building our refinery capacity, is it even logical that we ban the export of black mass? And if we do that, will we do more harm to the country versus enable the country? I think in terms of the recycling ecosystem, I think is a good point as well. And I think I really like your idea, Mr. Chatterjee, that if we are going to build a competitive industry in refinery, and if we believe that as India we will be, then keeping our borders open may be a good idea, and we stay competitive in this industry, and then we compete with the world, right? And if we are the lowest cost or the most sustainable recycling country, then we actually win even against China. I think would be maybe more prudent. um,
Uh, I totally agree with what Pooja ji said. If you ask my view, right, specifically on whether we should immediately ban black mass or not, I have a little different view. Because if you look at the numbers of last financial year, around 10,000 metric tons of black mass has been exported out of India, wherein the refining capacity or whatever has been refined in India is not more than 3,000 metric tons. So I'm talking about the operational capacity, not the installed capacity. And we as a company wear both the hats of hydrometallurgy as well as the black mass. The first point in this is if we immediately ban the black mass, there are very few hydrometallurgical players right now in the country, because the black mass producers will come at the mercy of these hydrometallurgical players. They will not be able to get the right margins or they will not be able to get the right direction for supply of their black mass. Because when there is an international market also standing at your gate to buy your black mass, there is very tough competition between Indian hydrometallurgical players versus the world. Imagine they are able to take the black mass from here and then process it there. So the Indian hydrometallurgical players are also enforced to optimize their process and match the cost. So if we are going to ban it today, all the players will become much more lazy, I would call it, because they will get black mass at the mercy of the black mass producers. Now, secondly, like I explained, to set up a black mass unit, the capex is very, very low. So there are a lot of people who would want to set up and get into battery recycling, and they have ambitions. And it should not be the only game of the big corporates to do battery recycling, but wherein we need 11 facilities for hydrometallurgy, but I would say we need at least 500 to 1000 black mass producers in India who are able to collect locally, convert it into black mass, and then supply and feed to the big refineries that come up. Because if they don't do it, the refineries will start jumping into this business, and they're going to be honest, they won't have an idea how to source battery from the ground up, wherein a local person can do it much better and tie up. Because of black mass, I've also seen success cases where I know few scrappers who used to, like 2 years back, supply us the batteries, and they have been into that business of scrap batteries for last 40 years. Their families have been doing it for last 40 years. Today they have successfully installed their capacity of producing black mass. They have also got all the government regulatory certificates, and they're also feeding the black mass, which is better than what a lot of big recyclers are making. The cobalt content and the contents are even much higher, and that is also coming at a very better and competitive cost. So if we ban it, so I think the industry will itself you know fall behind at least 2 years. Right now is not the time to ban. You should definitely put some tariffs onto it. And if we ban it, straight away Europe will say, okay, I'm not going to give it to you. Why should my materials to come to India? Or like you are not supporting anything outside India for critical materials. So the narrative will start. So there has to be tariffs, but not the ban. That is my view.
Thank you. Now we'll open the floor for the questions. If there are any questions from the audience.
There is also into Q&A. The Q&A section there. उसमें भी है.
Okay, thank you. I was just going through this report, and so I mean,
So we can have a question.
Anjali also briefed it, made the presentation. So my question is that there is this EV population density of India. There is a chart showing the map of India, and EV population density has been defined as number of vehicles registered in the state divided by the total area of the state. So this map shows that EV population density, barring the states of like regions of Delhi, NCR, Uttarakhand, UP, Bihar, Assam, Karnataka, and Maharashtra, EV population density is just 0 to 1 in most, almost 75% of the area of land mass of India. So what are the steps taken by the government or the NITI Aayog to increase the EV population density in the 75% area land mass of India, except for these states, Delhi, NCR, and UP, and Bihar. And so that is my limited question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Actually, I will just answer you after this session. If you have any questions from the panelists, you can ask now.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
You see, my question is about the safety. A lot of battery EVs are, lot of EVs are exploding. Accidents are taking place. So, what are the being done for the safety of the EVs? I would like to know. Second, are these accidents only unique to India, or has it been studied in China or other countries about the safety of the EVs?
Okay, I think it's a very strong statement that you have passed, and maybe I don't know if I can agree to that because see, of course there have been instances, right, and there's a lot of PR around that instance because knowing how, I think there are fires or let's say hazardous incidents happening even on your ICE counterpart of the vehicles. So I think saying that a lot of EV vehicles would catch fire or something would be a strong statement to make. But to tell you, sir, on the safety part of it, let's say most OEMs and also the government has been taking note of these, and there have been very stringent regulations on the OEMs since the last 3-4 years that have been put in, and a lot of safe standard practices are being followed today in the way the battery packs are designed, manufactured, and also put into the vehicles, and how we monitor them. So I think if going forward, this will only improve. And I think every industry needs a lot of maturity and more population on the ground for establishing itself. And this is what is happening with the EVs today. But I think need not worry about the safety of the vehicles, at least what I can say. Yeah.
I think I'm not a technical person, but what I also hear is that LFP battery is inherently more safe, because there is less likelihood of thermal runaway, which leads to sometimes explosion, and that's the chemistry of choice that India is at least adopting. So I also think just from that virtue, we should see less accidents and explosions.
Thanks. I have a question. I'm Akanksha Tyagi from CEW. So I have two questions, one for Utkarsh and Pooja and one for Vijay. So to you, my question is, I understand the conversation around black mass, but just like need your technical advice on what is the shelf life of storing black mass. Let's say when on our critical mineral mission, we have ideas of stockpiling minerals. If we just put a ban on export, I understand there are not technical capabilities right now for refining it, and valid point on having quality refiners in India. But from stockpiling point of view, do you think if they have like a longer shelf life, it contributes to the cause? And to Vijay, my question was, does product as a service for OEMs work? Do you think like it would you have plans to roll it out just to have more control over the entire supply chain and reverse logistics on the EV battery?
Okay, so for the black mass, it is an inorganic content. It can be stockpiled, as per my understanding, till eternity. There is no end of life for black mass because these are inorganic materials. But only thing is you have to ensure that there is no chemical reactions when it is being stockpiled. So you have to just ensure when you're keeping it for more than 5-10 years, so you keep in the right environmental conditions. That's it.
Yeah, I agree with Utkarsh. I think the only nuance here is the business nuance of it. I think the black mass is an expensive commodity, right? It's traded. So I think anybody to keep a stock of it, it's a very huge burden on working capital for an industry. And I think the second thing is the volatility of the metal, right? Because when you buy a black mass, you take a certain, punt on what the commodity prices are today. And that just keeps changing, right? So there is a big risk if you do too much stocking of black mass. So I also feel just from that rationale, it'll be difficult for a country to say that I'll just stockpile it till refinery capacity is built. That's
Yes, my question to Utkarsh is that we are finding that a lot of, advanced, economies basically are using, some of the new processes which are not very chemical intensive or even basically don't use excessive heat, for example, there's magnetic separation there. They are using water also for it, some of them are biodegradable, etc. So when can we, India, basically have some of these state of the art, processes for reduction of, so because most of these, in case if they basically emit carbon, during recycling stage, then obviously, the entire purpose gets defeated. So when can we have adopt these? And my second question is basically regarding also seeing that, there's a lot of, adoption of 3D technologies for, tracking of the condition of the materials, as far as when, so that, the impurities can be separated, at the recycling stage. So how can it, most of these OEMs because in India we have this informal sector. They don't use this kind of software, where they can track, advanced, the condition of the batteries, etc., so that, these impurities and these, can be, about the battery health, can be monitored. So these two
Okay.
points.
I'll just answer right after Vijay sir's question is pending.
Okay, so the answer is easy. So product as a service or battery as a service, today we have it in the offering. So we have announced the partnership with a couple of financiers. It is there. See, the simple answer is we let the ecosystem decide, the customer decide, right? You want to, if somebody has cash in hand, you want to buy it in cash, you want to loan it like a simple financing product, or you want to lease it, right? Uh, I do not think that as an OEM we need to do any specific initiative there, right? Of course, wherever we are offering, let's say, the battery as a service, is a different financing product as compared to a regular financing product. There, the financer would want a little bit more information from us, which we are always willing to share whatever is possible to be shared, like information on the battery, the kind of degradation patterns, or whatever, what we know. And that's what is an enabler from our side. Apart from that, I think it's again a pure business model question, and it's a question of capital. How do you want to infuse your capital, and how do you want to de-risk your business models? So that's how it is. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, sir. So, for your question, I'll just answer and then maybe Pooja ma'am can add to it. In terms of the more, I would call it the innovative technologies around the material extraction from end of life battery waste, which includes various kinds of processes that we have seen in the research paper or on the test benches. There has not been commercial scale production of above 5,000 metric tons for any of these technologies in our understanding around the world. We also have to at the same time learn from China, right? China is, I would call it 15 years ahead of us in terms of lithium ion battery recycling and efficiencies, which we will not take 15 years to cover. We will be able to cover it in next 3 years. There is bioleaching that is happening. For example, we use acids for leaching, but some people have found out some organic, I would say, enzymes which eat up the metals and just separate it out, and then those enzymes are separated out, right? So that is also there. It's happening in one startup in Singapore, in the NUS. Then on the European side, there are various startups who are claiming to use different kinds of technologies, maybe also separating out electrolyte, right? But we have been there, we have visited those, a few of those startups, but we have found out that they are still, I would call it, Europe is living in the dream state right now, right? In terms of recycling, we should be proud that India is far behind. Secondly, on the characterization that you asked about, specifically, especially on the unorganized side, right? So there are, you will be shocked to know that even some scrappers have XRF, you know, it's a 19 lakh rupees of equipment that they use, basically have been using to trade copper, big amounts of copper, because the same scrapper also is not refined to only lithium ion battery waste. I would say lithium ion battery waste will only be 10% of their 100 crores revenue in a year, right? So they use XRF guns to determine the value and the material content. And there are companies like Hitachi and few who have also enhanced these small handheld equipments to a stage where it is configured with very accurate results. So I think the industry is taking up on that side, no doubt.
Um, Good afternoon to the panel, and I would like to congratulate ICRIER for the comprehensive report that you've come out with. And my name is Suchitra Subramanian. I am from Nangia Anderson. My question is for Utkarsh and maybe Pooja and anyone else who would like to add as well. So in the morning, we heard that hydrometallurgy wins on the technical fronts, but obviously it's very capital intensive. So I just wanted to understand at what level could economies of scale be achieved? At what range would we need volumes of feedstock or black mass to be collected to reach a stage where we say that, okay, it's not as capital intensive as before?
Uh, I can answer and then maybe Pooja ji can add to it. In terms of setting up the capex, right? I explained it is 2 lakh rupees per metric ton, right? That's what we have faced. Uh, it depends if you break the cost of your processing cost, right? I would say in that 65% is your consumables. The remaining 15% is basically your manpower cost, and the remaining cost is basically the cost of energy, which includes your steam, electricity, and other cost if they're 5-6%. Now, the only cost that you can reduce is at certain factor when you increase the volumes. For example, the consumables that you're using, you'll start getting discounting factor on the consumables, but the amount of consumable required will will be same. The ratio will stay the same, because it is like making tea, right? You make tea in 1 liter pan versus 10,000 liter pan. The amount of chai patti and everything is same, right? So it is the exact same phenomena, wherein the cost of your steam and everything will come down. So bottom line is to set up uh, a unit. The first unit should be not less than, I would say, commercial unit in India should not be less than 100 metric tons of black mass feed capacity. That's what I believe. And in that, if you have an extensive experience of sourcing the black mass at the right cost, because no matter how efficient your process is, if you don't have the right black mass sourcing, channels, it is going to be cost effective. I mean, costly for you. So I think 100 metric tons. You wanna answer it?
No, I would say it has to be a little higher than 100, because
Yes.
I think it's I'm a chemical engineer by training. It's a very complex series of unit operations. And I think trying to do it at too small a scale, you can probably do it. I think, right now we are doing our pilots, we can do it. But, to make it at least commercially viable, I would say a little more scale is needed. Our first unit is going to consume 2.3 tons of black mass a day, with of course some margin if we run more shifts. But less than that, like even at that, we feel that we'll be break even. And yeah, and I think with a lot of risks involved, given like the commodity prices keep shifting. Yeah, that's at least my estimate. It's not the same, but it's well defined. So different chemistries will have a very different black mass, but the way it's characterized usually, and I think it's a well known methodology now. So they typically will tell you what's the cobalt content, the nickel content, the lithium content, and then the impurity profile. So just from that vantage point, it's like any other chemical that the certificate of analysis you get, and then you can process it. Yes. But I think the beauty of scale would be that the more robust your process is, the less you will have to tinker with your or worry about your input black mass. But a lot of mixing does happen as you get, because it looks the same. I think the biggest challenge is if LFP black mass is mixed with any of the NMC or LCO black mass, that's a big disaster. Just from a process chemistry standpoint, it's a no actually.
Excuse me. I'm KK Rao Chaudhary, Energy and Environment Consultant. Probably I ask my question to Vijayji. Many EV manufacturers have partnership with specialized recycling facilities who will be doing the recycling in an environmentally friendly manner, environmentally responsible manner, while disassembling and separating the components of metals, separating into metals, electrolytes. So could you name some locations where these facilities are already in existence, and you may mention about your partnership also? Thank you.
I think locations, because most of these are right now connected in the northern, around the NCR, these regions only mostly, if I'm right. And we have an active partnership with Atero. So we have announced that, and we use them So they help us, Mahindra last mile mobility vehicles, manufacturing and vehicle scrap right now, because the current generation is very limited. I mean, we are still in a very lower end of the numbers. Once we scale, we will of course partner with more players. But today, that's the one partnership we have with, and they're helping us do it, like how you said, around ensuring that all compliance are met and stuff. And maybe where they are, I think Utkarsh would be know more.
Yeah, I think in terms of the specialized facilities, there are all around the country, and specifically majority is near to Delhi NCR because today, if you look at the scrap sourcing, I would say 50% is still coming from the unorganized sector, and the majority of unorganized sector is here. To run a sustainable plant, I think you need to be closer to your source. Secondly, what I also know about is, and it is a good concept which is coming up in India, is basically the recycling parks. So, yeah, so like if you would have heard in Maharashtra, MTC is setting up a recycling park where Mitsui has invested. So these kind of parks are very important, and also to highlight, and it is to us a surprise, but we are very happy about it. So we operate out of Bulandshahr in the Sikandrabad industrial area. In 2020, we were the first one to reach out there. There are now, like I think earlier, sir was also talking about creating a cluster, right? Recycling cluster. So for specifically for lithium ion battery recycling, we have seen now there are 5 different recyclers, and everybody has their unique set of capabilities. There is out of 5, one is a German player who has set up a unit here for making black mass. So, and we all are within 2 kilometers of circle. And, every month we all sit together and finalize, okay, this is amount the battery is going to come into the cluster. So a cluster driven approach has been started. And I think our Sikandrabad cluster will be the first one to showcase it. So I think that is already happening, and that will happen basically in the Pune belt and in the Chennai to Bangalore belt, and the one will be here.
Sir, thank you. It's a very, very informative session. Could I ask a small question to Dr. Chatterjee? Sir, how would you like us to take this battery recycling as a profit center? And if it's a profit center, would we be compromising on some level of environment, or it will be a kind of a social activity? And if that is the case, then how it can be sustained, sir?
Thank you. Very good question, actually. If you see, 10 years back, I floated a concept with Utkarsh mentioned, eco park, creating eco park around India. So somehow it was not been conceptualized properly. Only Delhi government just took that initiative, but through 3 LG change, but they could not come out with the first eco park. So if you see the success model of China, this is through the eco park. I visited few. That is the best concept. If you are small players, informals are working together, that is one concept. And there all those facilities, government subsidy should be given so that it can be done in a one space, and transportation is less, and you can monitor a better way what are the pain points and all. Another is the big refinery. So country should do both the thing, and there will be different approach. For big refineries, still I see that they should be allowed, because this is also another industry. But if you are restricting that, the Utkarsh is saying that sourcing material, at least e-waste sourcing material from informal sector is not allowed. So the sourcing material should not be any restriction, actually. So if you are actually growing certain company, you know the feed material. But for unfortunately for recycling industry or repurposing industry, this is a real challenge. So we have to find out the place where we require intervention, government intervention, and help that. So then it will go. And as Utkarsh mentioned, this is an innovative country. We are doing a lot of, I have seen a lot of good work in informal also. That is why you have started that cluster program. So there will be taking lithium ion battery as well. So, and this 30 can go to 3000 in future. So refinery can take from that. That will be the right cost-effective approach, I should say. Hydrometallurgy, as mentioned, this is can be done in batch process. So that is also, you do not require a continuous feed. So that is a good approach for informal sector. So those things required to be seen so that we can have some capability infrastructure for recycling industry, repurposing industry. Third thing, whatever, because I'm now representing SERI USA, so we should have some standard like R2 on different ISO standards, so that all those companies are coming up with a because you can trust. Now the trust system is not there. So credibility, accountability, trust should come if you have a third party standard which can assess the things. Because if you are asking CPCB, SPCB to go and visit and audit, and this is entirely a different ball game. Industry related knowledge is there. I have seen is missing here. So they are everything you are uploading to the CPCB portal doesn't mean anything. And I have seen one of the big thing I mean disclosing here. You have seen there are 4 metals continuously augmenting, enhancing the CPCB portal. One is, iron and steel. Another is copper. Another is gold. And third one is your aluminum. Okay. So it's very unique. If you see globally, only in our country, EPR has been monitored in a secondary material, this thing. So it is, if you see, it's a wonderful thing one has done. But do you have any sanctity of those numbers? If our ministry trying to create our semiconductor manufacturing, considering the copper is there, where is the copper? Can you say that? Because uploading certain things in CPCB portal has no meaning. So those things can come if you have a global standard. So the traceability of the material is the most important thing. Because this is the government data, it is going to the parliament, all the government figures will be quoting that data. These are the things required to be amended very quickly, because from 2023 onward, we are accommodating that 4 metals, and in future will come up for lithium, cobalt, all those things. So that is misleading for the country.
Thank you everyone for your thoughtful questions. Sure.
Waiting for all the other questions to get over. I wanted to ask a very fundamental question. So far, we spoke about challenges in chemistry from a recycling perspective, but as the race for increasing density is increasing, the format of the packaging of the cells itself is changing. You're looking at cell to chassis, cell to cradle, cell to pack. You're looking at all that. How will will they render any challenges for your recycling ecosystem, or do you feel that you are already ready to handle that evolving pack chemistry?
I can take that and then maybe you can add to it. Yes, so that's a very specific and right question because firstly, see, the cells are all coming from China, majority of them in India. And the challenge for them is how to package maximum energy into the least space. So they will do their best to do that, right? Which means for recycling, for recyclers, the amount of materials being reduced because in terms of volume is being decreased, right? And the energy efficiency and the energy density is increasing, especially for the blade cell, which even Mahindra is using now, started using in India for 4-wheelers, and others will follow for sure. So I definitely see it as a challenge, but you can also take the example from the LFP recycling. The cost of the raw material is also proportionate to the cost of the recycled material and the feedstock. For LFP, the cost of recycling is also very, very low because you don't have to do the solvent extraction method. So it is I would say it is an experiential game. It will keep on evolving. So the new chemistries and the energy density will keep on increasing. But the recyclers will also have some kind of advantage, because the cost of the raw material will also be low. And then, of course, there is refurbishing, which can always add value.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I would like to thank the panelists for such an insightful and engaging discussion. And also Dr. Rashi Gupta for joining us online from Germany. We hope to see you in person for future events. I would request Dr. Anjali Singh to present the panelists with a token of appreciation. Dr. Sandip Chatterjee. Ms. Pooja Jain. Mr. Vijay Changanti. Mr. Utkarsh Singh. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Uh, I would now like to invite Mr. Rishabh Sethi, Program Manager, Shakti Sustainable Energy Foundation, to deliver the concluding remarks. Thank you, esteemed speaker, panelists, industry leaders, and participants. As we conclude this vital event focused on promoting circularity in the Indian EV ecosystem, particularly through the lens of EV battery recycling, it is clear that we are at a pivotal juncture in the ecosystem. The insights that we have shared, that had been shared today, illuminate what are the challenges as well as the immense opportunity that we have in terms of the way forward. Talking about the research and the discussions, India is at a very nascent stage in terms of the recycling ecosystem, and our discussions had highlighted that there's a projected potential of growth in terms of the battery waste. Like from the presentation that we had, there are higher estimates of, let's say, 37 to 80 gigawatt of battery waste that would come up by 2030, 2040, and which would lead to, and it would exponentially increase to more than 600 gigawatt by 2050. The sheer scenarios present the need to manage and illustrate the sheer volume of materials that we need to manage and recover from the waste. We certainly have the recovery of these materials would definitely highlight what type of potential that we have. So potentially we can meet our demand. What the research highlights, that we can meet 20 to 40% of our demand of minerals from these recycling minerals itself by 2050. From the technology assessment side, we understand from the discussions also and from the research as well that hydrometallurgy currently stands as the most advanced technology in terms of the battery recycling. But the potential that direct recycling also highlights for a specific case also does not go untouched upon. And there might be more advancement in terms of the technologies that can come up in terms of the EV battery recycling. From the life cycle assessment perspective, also there is a clear emphasis on how recycling would add value towards the EV battery ecosystem as well, especially in the case of NMC batteries. And finally, from the mapping of the geospatial mapping of the recycling locations, we understand how these the sites for the recycling clusters should come up in coherence with the battery manufacturing, as well as where the most demand would come up. So there is more economies of scale, as well as it is the recycling business is more viable and it can continue to grow. So the estimates has been highlighted that we need approximately from a range of 11 to 130 new recycling clusters across the country by 2030. Talking from the infrastructure standpoint, there are countries who have been at a much better stage in terms of the recycling with the policies that they have come up to foster the recycling cluster industry itself. India, among the developing countries, it's still at a nascent stage, and there is immense potential in terms of what can be done through various policies. And we have heard from the industry leaders talking about the challenges that they face and how these policies can aim to address these kind of challenges. So I would just like to conclude that yes, there are certain challenges, but the government itself is taking various steps with the establishment of the National Critical Mineral Mission. Gave us definite signal that the government of India is focused on promoting and gave a strong commitment to the recycling industry as a large. And we are also exploring how the second life of batteries from can add value to the overall ecosystem, be it from the EV ecosystem or from the power ecosystem as well. Moving ahead, we would require a comprehensive approach towards how this particular ecosystem can be evolved. And this cannot be done alone. This would require a collaborative approach from the industry, from the policymakers, from the academia, from the think tanks and all. So we need to come up together in terms of creating this comprehensive approach or roadmap on how to we move forward. This is just the starting of it. We are just talking about the technology, but how this can be expanded and we can come together and create a better ecosystem and position India as a leader in terms of this transition is something that we need to explore upon. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishabh. I would request Dr. Anjali Singh to present Rishabh with a token of appreciation. Thank you, Rishabh. I would like to invite Dr. Anjali Singh to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Karthik. I would like to thank all the speakers and audience for active participation. And as a team, we would like to thank Dr. Amrita Goldar for her valuable insights and guidance during the course of the project and very active and last minute participation in the event. I would like to thank the people behind the scenes, Sonu Sharma, Anvi Mehta, Neha Arora, Rajesh Chaudhary, Chaya Singh, Rajkumar Sahi, and rest of the ICRIER administrative team, whose tireless effort assures the smooth execution of the event and the project. I'm also grateful to our knowledge partner, Shakti Sustainable Energy Foundation, for their contribution during the course of the research as well as the preparation of the event and report. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words. I would like to now invite Dr. Amrita Goldar to present a token of appreciation to Dr. Anjali Singh. Thank you, ma'am. So this concludes our program for today. On behalf of organizers and speakers, I would like to extend a sincere gratitude to all of you for your participation and engagement in this important discussion on EV battery circularity in India. Please join us for lunch, and we hope to see you in our future events as well. Thank you so much.